Today, let's delve into a reborn legend, a tale of revenge dominating the top manhwa. Once the disgrace of the greatest sword family, Jin Runcandel died in bitter resentment, only to be reborn with a chance to redo everything. Carrying future memories and a pact with the gods, his goal is clear: revenge. Can the former trash overthrow an entire empire? And this is how the story begins. Amidst the profound night, the sword-shaped emblem glowed with an ethereal blue light, symbolizing the Runcandel family, a swordsmanship family that ruled half the world. This was a renowned swordsmanship family where members possessed robust physiques and extraordinary talents from birth. With overwhelming power, the white-haired swordsman, bearing a regal aura and blazing eyes, ruled this world. Their essence was defined by three things. First was combat. In fierce confrontations, as sword blades flashed with magical light, fervent smiles bloomed on their lips, showing pure joy in battle. Next was conquest. Under the sunset of a brutal battlefield, a lone figure stood amidst the ruins of enemies, the proud family banner waving, marking a conquest achieved. And finally, control. On the throne, masked rulers held the chains of the defeated, forcing them to kneel in absolute submission. Combat, conquest, and control. These three things spoke volumes about that family. That was also the family where I was born. I am Jin Runcandel. Among the countless powerful figures of the family, I am the youngest son.
In the selection ceremony that determined futures, amidst a forest of treasured swords, Jin's small hands reached for the patriarch's blade. He believed he was the one destined to inherit that position. Standing before his father's towering, dignified figure, he heard a deep, warm voice resonate. "Jin, you have chosen just as I expected." How interesting, Jin recalled. He had once thought his future would be filled solely with success and renown, a path paved with roses amidst the cheers of thousands. But then, that glorious illusion shattered like a mirror. Jin bitterly wondered, does that even make sense? I have absolutely no talent in swordsmanship whatsoever. How could someone from the Runcandel family be so poor at using a sword? In the sweat-drenched training ground, amidst indifferent and scornful gazes, he was merely Runcandel's shame, Runcandel's disgrace, someone far below the family standards. Wiping away a bitter drop of sweat, Jin stood alone in the cold courtyard, bearing the most humiliating title, the most untalented in the Runcandel household.
In the family's vast training yard, drenched in dazzling sunlight, a mocking voice rang out, breaking the silence. "Hey, Jin!" His two older brothers approached, one scoffing, "Still swinging that useless wooden sword, are we?" The other sneered, adding condescendingly, "Just ignore him. He probably won't swing a sword unless it's a special sword. Wonder where that special sword, the Barisada, is. Why does he have to swing this wooden one?" Both burst into sinister laughter. Sweat trickled down his temples. Jin remained silent, his face darkening as he tried to ignore the venomous taunts. Jin's silence angered the white-haired brother. He strode forward, growling, "Hey, why aren't you answering? Jin, your almighty brothers are asking you a question." Without waiting for a reply, he put all his strength into a vicious kick. Ugh! The kick landed directly on Jin's stomach, making him double over in pain, the wooden sword slipping from his grasp and falling to the ground. He collapsed onto the cold stone floor, clutching his stomach, groaning in agony. Looking down from above, one of the two brothers uttered a contemptuous remark, "Truly useless." Jin Runcandel still tried to pick up the wooden sword he was holding. "Why do you keep wasting effort swinging this thing? It's useless anyway." Jin gritted his teeth, trying to hold on to the sword but couldn't resist the other's strength. He picked them up, flipping them over with amusement, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha, what's this? Basic swordsmanship theory? Hey, do you really think you can master swordsmanship just by reading these empty theories? This is why useless people should never be given opportunities." Horror was evident on Jin's face as the other guy raised the wooden sword, gripping both ends tightly. "Stop! Give it back to me!" Jin cried out in despair, but his plea was met only with a sneer. The man began to put strength into breaking the sword, his cold voice ringing out, "Because when given an opportunity, you don't know your place." Crack! The wooden sword, a symbol of Jin's feeble efforts, snapped in two. Splinters flew into the air. Stunned and pained, Jin collapsed, only able to utter a hopeless cry, "Stop!"
Forced to sprawl on the cold stone floor, Jin desperately clung to his last shred of hope. A tall figure blocked the light, and a heavy leather boot unhesitatingly stomped his wooden sword into splinters. "You didn't have to do that," Jin mumbled, his voice weak but defiant. "What did you say?" an angry voice roared. A rough hand grabbed Jin's hair, yanking his head back. "We're doing all this for your own good. Why do you keep resisting?" As two other brothers pinned him to the floor, another leaned down, his tone mocking. "Is that what your nanny taught you?" "This has nothing to do with Gilly," Jin gritted his teeth, struggling in vain. The brother tightened his grip on Jin's hair, looking down with cold eyes. "It seems you're still stubborn. It looks like we'll have to teach you a proper lesson in etiquette." Amidst the cruel torment, Jin's mind drifted to the magnificent Runcandel mansion bathed in the sunset. My brother's bullying, my pathetic non-existent talent. The scene blurred, and a cold truth emerged in his mind. I couldn't care less about them.
Jin Runcandel still struggled to get up, his mind repeating a single belief. He told himself, "I just need to work hard. If I work hard, eventually I'll gain recognition from the family and become part of the Runcandel house." That was once something he truly believed, yet reality cruelly swept away all that naive hope. Memories of that fateful day flooded back, a cold, emotionless voice echoing under the deep blue sky, amidst the family's majestic towers. "Jin Runcandel, from this moment you are expelled from the family." The colossal gate bearing the Runcandel crest slowly closed, locking his every hope inside and pushing him out into the vast, lonely world. Standing before what was once home, Jin quietly sighed, the bitterness of the past still intact. His hand clenched into a fist as he recalled the last words they granted him as a mercy. "Because your efforts are commendable, we will not kill you." A forced, sarcastic smile appeared on Jin's face. That was how he was expelled from his family at the age of 25 and began a life of aimless wandering.
In the cold snowstorm, Jin quietly recalled the past. It was around the time he met his master. In the crowded square, a figure with fiery red hair and a mystical staff appeared, and at that very moment, Jin realized a shocking truth. He truly possessed talent. Not only that, but it was talent and magic, a field absolutely forbidden within the Runcandel family. A brilliant golden aura enveloped Jin, a power he had never felt when wielding a sword now surged intensely between his palms, accompanied by a confident and challenging smile. 3 years later, under the faint moonlight filtering through the window, Jin stood amidst a room filled with books, muttering the magical principles he had painstakingly researched. Connect the mana existing in nature and the mage's mana to recover mana, then amplify the mana about to be manifested. As soon as he finished speaking, a surge of dark energy began to ripple at his feet, causing the entire room to tremble slightly.
Suddenly, a piercing scream tore through the space as raging, coiling streams of dark energy swallowed Jin. It felt like being dragged by thousands of invisible hands. Around Jin was an empty, ethereal space covered in a bizarre blue hue. He stood alone in the void, lost and bewildered. A low, resonant voice from above made Jin startle and look up. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead as he stammered, filled with surprise and fear. "Who are you?" From within the hazy darkness, a colossal, majestic, and terrifying entity emerged. Its enormous form was shackled by giant metal chains, suspended in a universe sparkling like stars. The authoritative voice resounded once more, answering Jin's question. "I am Solderet, ruler of all shadows."
In the dark, voidal space enveloped by mystical deep blue energy flows, a solemn voice echoed, calling Jin Runcandel's name. Jin stood bewildered, gazing into the void, seeking the source. Before him, a colossal, shapeless shadow slowly emerged. The voice echoed again, ancient and powerful, "I, the god of darkness, offer you a pact." Jin, stunned, couldn't process the events. Solderet's voice continued, a tempting promise. "Pact with me and you'll wield dark power, nullify all curses?" The voice abruptly stopped, detecting something unusual. Immediately, blood-red chains erupted from the void, coiling tightly around Jin. They tightened, converging on a smoldering red insignia on his chest. Solderet gasped. "Oh my!" The god seemed to understand, his tone shifting from surprise to contemplation. "Oh, Pact Maker, you seem to have been hated in childhood. Your talent was severed by a mere curse." Jin froze, his eyes wide with confusion. He stammered, "A curse?" "Yes," Solderet replied decisively. "It's a curse called Blade's Illusion, suppressing swordsmanship talent. This terrible curse should never exist within the Runcandel family." The god's explanation struck Jin's mind like a hammer, unveiling the bitterest secret of his life. Solderet's voice echoed. "I understand now. Perhaps that's why I was drawn to you. From this moment forth, no curse shall ever harm you again." Crack! A deafening sound reverberated as the chains that had long restrained Jin shattered into pieces. The blazing red energy dissipated like smoke, leaving only tiny streaks of light on the young man's hands. Jin stared down in astonishment, unable to believe this sudden liberation. A hand of shadows reached out like a promise. "All that remains is for you to become an extraordinary demonic swordsman," Solderet declared, a gleaming blue object resembling a gigantic pendulum being handed to Jin. "Jin Runcandel, I will greatly enjoy observing you." The space of shadows vanished. Jin found himself back in the familiar attic room, illuminated by the faint chandelier light. The dark aura that once oppressed him now gently swirled around him, as if a new power had awakened. After a moment of silence, Jin's eyes shone with steely resolve. He stepped forward, his hand firmly grasping the sword. A decisive and powerful swing cut through the air, signaling an entirely new beginning.
Under the full, radiant moonlight, Jin Runcandel stepped out of the room, the sword in his hand reflecting a cold silver light. The night was silent, only his footsteps echoing in the space. Swish! The steel blade was drawn from its sheath in a perfect arc, its sharp sound resonating through the night. The moment he began to swing his sword, a powerful surge of blue spiritual energy erupted, swirling around Jin and his blade. The mighty aura followed each sword stroke, painting dazzling streaks of light in the darkness. Just as Solderet said, Jin thought to himself, his eyes gleaming with astonishment. "Each time I wield this sword, I can reach a new height." A wildly exhilarated smile spread across Jin's lips, sweat beading on his forehead. He clearly felt the change. "It's so light, as if it has no weight at all. It feels like I'm just swinging my bare hands." The one once considered the worst failure in Runcandel clan history was now wielding powerful sword strikes, his body enveloped in a whirlwind of spiritual energy. Excitement surged in his chest as a daring thought flashed through his mind. What if I combine magic with this? Almost immediately, a complex magic circle with ancient characters glowed brightly before Jin, radiating a pure and fierce magical energy that illuminated the entire dark courtyard.
His eyes gleamed with resolve, and a self-satisfied smirk played on his lips as he swung his sword down with unimaginable power. A dazzling beam of light ripped through the night, leaving a faint, ethereal trail in the air. In that instant, a profound realization flashed in Jin's mind. His old self, the incompetent one, had completely vanished. He let out a sigh of relief, sweat beading on his temples. Looking at his achievement, a contented smile appeared on his face. "Finally, my efforts have paid off." Amidst the secluded forest, a rustling from the bushes shattered Jin's moment of triumph. 3 knights in full plate armor, gleaming under the faint moonlight, emerged. They silently observed the scene before them, astonished by the power that had just been unleashed. A moment later, the image of Jin lying sprawled on the ground, his body bruised, blood streaming down his face, appeared. Perhaps a fierce battle had just occurred between Jin and those knights. In the dim space, Jin Runcandel's consciousness flickered and drifted. A faint, distant sound seemed to echo. Did I just hear something? Scream? A sudden, heavy sensation gripped his entire body. His throat parched. Jin struggled to open his eyes, sensing only pain and surrounding wreckage. He lay prone on the cold ground, partly buried under large rocks. Fresh blood oozed from his mouth, staining the area red. "Huh?" He mumbled in confusion, trying to piece things together. His last memory was vague. A glimmer of hope, he used his remaining strength to call out in his mind. "Master, Solderet, is anyone there?" Eerie silence was the only answer. No one replied. As the realization of impending death became clearer, a wave of bitter and desperate thoughts surged through Jin's mind. "I can't believe I'm dying in my sleep. Is it because, after all, I was just useless? Did I not even get a chance to use the magic and power of Solderet that I struggled so hard to obtain? If this is how it ends..."
Why was I given a chance? That was the last thought flickering in Jin's mind as his consciousness faded amidst the cold rubble, his body lying motionless in a pool of his own blood. everything plunged into a black, silent void. But then, the darkness dissipated, giving way to a warm light and a soft sensation beneath his palms. Jin dazedly opened his eyes, looking down at his small, tender hands resting on the lush green grass. Huh? His train of thought was completely muddled. Flashing images returned, the familiar stern faces of his family members, the gleaming sword racks under the bright sunlight of the training ground. What's happening? I clearly died. While Jin was still stunned, a gentle, warm voice rang out from in front of him, pulling him from his thoughts. "Keep it up, young Master Jin." It was Gilly, with her soft brown hair and a smile as radiant as the sun. Gilly? Why is she here? Jin was stunned, his heart pounding in his youthful chest. In the midst of an endless field where thousands of swords stood upright in the ground like silent tombs, one particular blade emanated a brilliant radiance. That was Barisada. Jin froze, his childlike eyes wide with astonishment. He recognized this scene, a memory he thought had faded. This is the selection ceremony, Jin thought to himself, feeling the damp ground beneath his small hands. I've returned to the past, returned in the body of a 1-year-old child, Jin Runcandel. In my previous life, I merely happened to choose this sword, but this time would be different. With an iron determination utterly disproportionate to his infant body, the boy crawled forward, his plump hand reaching out and touching Barisada's cold blade. Instantly, a murmur of astonishment spread through the crowd witnessing the ceremony. One of the clan's high-ranking members exclaimed in shock, "The youngest master has chosen the patriarch's sword."
Under the vast blue sky, flecked with white clouds, a colossal sword stood majestically, grand and magnificent. The brilliant sunlight reflected off its hilt of pure gold, emanating a sacred halo. Tiny specks of light danced in the air, enveloping the wondrous sight. Yet, beneath the shadow of that magnificent sword, Jin Runcandel was but a small boy, kneeling with hands pressed against the weed-covered ground. He looked up, his azure eyes fixed on the sharp blade that obscured the sun, revealing a terrifying resolve. A flame of determination, freshly kindled from the ashes of a past life, urged him to utter a vow from the depths of his heart. In this life, he gritted his teeth, thinking to himself, I will make my own choices.